So we have 3 buffs on the JP version of the game, and I have not actually taken a look at any of these buffs. I kind of wanted to do a raw, visceral reaction to the new buffs that they're getting. So this is his first skill or his second skill? Okay, this is getting buffed. So originally, it had this god-awful ability to reduce an undead or demon enemy's NP gauge by 1. Would have made a lot of sense if it was like John's skill and it, affected servants specifically, but this was always pretty nice at the least because, dude, 20% NP for 5 turns is very, very powerful. Like, I've brought in Amakusa to many challenge quests, and this is just like a very, very useful skill. And now... Okay, there we go. It is just now any enemy's NP getting nerfed by 1. That's very good. Reduces their buster resistance by 20% for 5 turns. Okay. And then it gives him an immediate 20% battery on top of keeping the 20% NP for 5 turns. This is ridiculously broken. They did not have to do all of this, because if you look at his third skill, he already gives himself like a fat 30% buster for 3 turns. So now it's just like Amakusa is basically buffing himself with his buster, debuffing all enemies, by the way, all enemies. So his AoE is going to hit pretty hard. Already had one of the better AoE NPs in the game, right? Because it just says yeet and takes off all their buffs. And so now he's got that. He has an immediate battery. So like you can basically, what you can do is you can just have like a K-scope on him, charge his battery, and then he'll start refreshing so he can get off an immediate NP with like a lot of damage, right? And then he'll charge his NP back up to full, right? And then even then, you could probably get his NP back to 100% before 5 turns has elapsed, because you're going to be pairing him with like Merlins and like waivers, right? Those are going to be the supports for Amakusa as a buster servant, and his NP charge is quite high. And I know you're like, well, I mean, it's got like, decent NP charge to it on the arts, but look at this! Look at his extra attack, dude. That's 7 hits. That's 7 hits of this NP charge, dude. It's redonkulous. Amakusa is now very similar to someone like, what's her name? MHX, where they have buffed all of his skills, but he is redonkulous. Because look at what this guy was, an L, just a complete L before he even like had these upgrades, right? Because they're just like, okay, I guess he's got like a pretty annoying NP, but that's really it. Then they're like, all right, let's buff his NP damage, and we're like, oh, that's pretty good. And they're like, all right, what if we gave him fat buster damage? Like, okay, we're doing some damage now. They're like, you know what? He's not getting his NP easy enough. Let's give him fat NP gen. The same NP gen they just gave to Arthur, by the way, 30% for 3 turns. And they're like, you know what? Let's just make him stupid, dummy, broken. And yeah, I know you're like, by the way, it was a 10-turn cooldown, now it's 8. It's like, let's get an 8-turn cooldown. Oh no, not the 8-turn cooldown. But his effects last for 5 turns. He's broken. Amakusa is like, just like over the course of these like buffs that he's gotten, he's almost become like a must summon servant, right? Like, let me look at other rulers. Like, I think the only thing that's kind of bad is he's got like, no, his competition's not all that stiff, because you're kind of dookie right now. You're kind of dookie. I know it's gonna make people mad. I mean, look, you can do crit memes with Sherlock Holmes, but it's just far too much effort, and it's not worth what you're, actually getting. So dookie, you're soloing everything in the game. You're a free-to-play servant, so you're alright. You're okay. You're really good, especially after your buffs. Himiko's very good, and Karen's very good. So maybe rulers are just becoming super stacked, because look at these. Like, these 5 are like phenomenal borderline like must summon units, right? These 3 are like really solid still. They're just not like as good, but they're still very good. And then like you just kind of punch things, and once you punch something, you're kind of just dead. And then you stink. You need buffs. Like, I don't know what it is with their bias against John, but look at this! Look at this! They haven't even touched her skills, dude. Come on. Like, dude, she could be such a godly support unit, but they're just like, man, who cares about John, bro? So, okay. Basically, Amakusa, very, very good. What did they buff with you? Golden Rule, okay. So they buffed your Golden Rule. that would be your second skill. So it was debuff immunity for 2 turns. That's really powerful because that's normally debuff immunity is like by hit, but now it's for just 2 flat turns, which is very powerful. 1k HP, not very strong. And then 10% NP gauge for 3 turns on a 6 turn cooldown. It's like a baby version of Amakusa skill. And it turns into, so you keep the debuff immunity, you didn't get a higher HP regen, and you didn't get this. So really, they just stacked on 20%. Ooh, but it's party arts for 3 turns? That's pretty nice. They didn't lower the cooldown either. That would have been pretty nice. They really should have given her like 2k HP regen per turn, or maybe extended that to 3 turns, just to like kind of give a buff to maybe one of these things, or even like as an art servant, just give her 20% so she can loop like the Rider version. But yeah, because she's kind of, this is like stinky, dude. This is really stink as like an art servant. You have 1 hit, it's like bad. But this is nice for Da Vinci. Oh my goodness, hold on. This is nice for Da Vinci. It's gonna give her a nice like utility for the entire party, I suppose, but it's not super game breaking. I mean, it'll help her damage a bit, but I'm not like super impressed. That's nice, but it's not like, dude, Amakusa is like mammoth sized balls is like what they just gave him. And then what did they do for Da Vinci? They were just like, here you go, like here's a little something something. He's like, okay, whatever. Jinke planning. Okay, this looks huge. Okay, because these, I'm trying not to read what they actually do because I want to like get a nice first impression. So your planning skill. Wow, yeah. Ooh, 30% star gen for 3 turns. Calm down there. Calm down there, FGO. It's a little good. All right, let's relax. Okay. So she's gonna get 50% damage against king enemies for 3 turns, which is quite a few people, actually, now that I think about it, if we go to the traits. But let's remember, you're probably only going to use her against Riders and Berserkers. So let's see how many kings there are that fall into that trait. I'm stupid, I don't know my alphabet. It literally says K right there. I'm just actually a dummy. Where is it? So, let's see. These, okay, that's a fair bit. Like all these riders, that's a fair bit of enemies. That's pretty good. It's also good that like Ivan and Kets fall into this category, and Ozzy, because I know some people are still going through the FGO game, and these are like some of the higher end bosses. Like he's a Camelot boss, you're a boss in Babylonia, and you're the boss of Lost Belt 1. So that will help some people out with them. Oh yeah, you two as well. So that's pretty good for them. And then Berserkers, I mean, that's still like a good chunk of people, right? Like that's good. And then I suppose you could even try to like bring her against these two, right? Like just if you like don't have like a moon cancer for the Avenger, or you don't have another foreigner or something for this person. So like that's actually really good. That's very solid for Jin K. Very nice. It grants on self or on attack debuff for 5 times 3 turns. So she inflicts defense down by 10% when attacking with her quick cards. That's pretty good. 10% defense, and I'm assuming that stacks. If that stacks, that's really strong. That's going to help her damage out a lot if that's able to stack. And then they buffed it up to 50%. Yeah, this is really good. This is really, really strong. Okay, so it says it 5 times. So I'm assuming that means if you get really lucky and you can get 5 of her quick cards over the course of, you know, in 3 turns basically, you'll inflict like 50% defense down on them. That's really strong. And our NP counts because our NP is a quick card. This is really strong. Jin K is getting really strong. This is really good. I think Amakusa got the best buff, but her servant, like I think hers is better for her, if that makes sense. Like Amakusa has the better buff, but Jin K's is doing more for her, right? Because Amakusa's at the very least was still genning him NP, right? It was still like useful, but this was just like, relax, dude. We're okay. Let's not blow the hinges off the doors with this, all right? Let's not do anything too crazy. But now this is really good. This is just a very solid skill. I'm thoroughly impressed. The Da Vinci one is a little bit lacking because, again, as I'm saying, like, something here could have gotten buffed, because like HP regen is generally like not super hype in FGO. Like most people aren't like, I'm gonna heal a whole bunch of health back and that's how I'm gonna beat this. It's like, no, who cares, dude? So maybe if you could have extended like 2k, that actually would be pretty notable. Like once you're starting to get like 2k HP back, because how much HP does she have? Okay, she's got like 14k. Yeah, that's a decent chunk. That's a seventh of her HP she'd be getting back every turn. That's quite a bit. So that's actually pretty nice. But yeah, unfortunately they didn't really help Da Vinci out too much. But I mean, we've still got, man, you know what it would have been really nice is if they gave like buff success rate on this. So this could have become a bit more consistent, right? Because that's a decent amount of defense. And that's pretty good NP damage. And you're just going to be really sad if you miss it. So that actually would have been really nice if they gave it to her. But I'm not going to complain. This is going to buff her damage just a little bit. Just to check out. I'm actually quite curious where her NP damage is actually. So I want to see where it is. Obviously this chart is very far behind. The last time it was updated was Servant Cam. So this is still relevant for people playing the NA version because this is still like 2 years ahead. So okay, her damage was quite high for AoE caster. And I'm assuming this is going to bump it up just a little bit. I'd assume she'd probably be a bit more consistently above Nero caster now. Because yeah, they're very close if you look at this. And so getting like that 20% arts buff will probably bump her up there. Yeah, that would mean that like Da Vinci would start to become the strongest AoE caster, which is really nice. It actually gives you a reason to use her. The only unfortunate thing is she can't really loop, which is kind of the meta we're in right now. But yeah, actually I think that's a nice little buff for Da Vinci. Okay, I don't necessarily agree with the buff they did give her, but I understand that they didn't want to give her too much damage because she's already kind of got that on lockdown, as it looks like. But giving her like a bit of that extra utility would have been a little nice. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about the buffs down in the comments down below. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think. I think that Amakusa buff is insane. That's definitely like that makes Amakusa like a borderline must summon right now because he's on Rado. I don't know. I might just do a video specifically on Amakusa, just being like, you have to summon this dude, right? I might like play around with him on like JP just a little bit because I don't, dude, they made him built different. But Jinkei, this is so good for like free to play. Like every time they buff these lower end servants, it makes me so happy because I was like, Assassin's already kind of like an L of a class, and it's like, it's so top heavy. Like if you don't have Jack, if you don't have her, if you miss this event, if you don't have Hassan, who's like a limited servant, if you don't have, I don't know, who's another single target like Assassin's good. If you don't have Kama, this is like, what are you gonna use? Like Okita maybe? Like Okita's fine, it's not super great. And it's like, I mean, I guess you could get Hoagie, but that's in like 2 years. So, or like, what if you just started playing and you just missed that event that just happened? She's not gonna be back for like a year, dude. Or like Li Xuan. I guess Li Xuan is like, I think you can pull him at any time. But you see what I mean? Like, it's very like just nice that they're buffing like a servant like her and making her look really, really good. Like, it's a very solid. Although she probably has a bit more to go. Because let me look at Jinkei's other skills before we close off. Because what? Yeah, this is actually like a bit better than like the instinct that we're used to. So maybe if they just slap on crit damage, maybe. Like I know she's got this, but maybe some extra crit, maybe like 20% party crit damage, 30% party crit damage. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe like NP gain. I know that's a little much for me to hope for, but just something good. Well, NP gain wouldn't really do her much good because she's only got one hit. I don't know. Maybe like a battery, something like that. NP gen. And yeah, maybe because actually the NP gain actually be kind of fine for her hits because her NP charge is high enough. So I don't know. Let me know in your comments down below what you guys think. My name is ZTL, and I'm gonna go ahead and head out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.